You know, when we talk about AI, we often think about these huge, powerful models, right? But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath all that, there's this massive ecosystem of tools that developers use to turn those big ideas into a reality. Today, we're going to dive into that ecosystem and pull back the curtain on a secret weapon that can totally change the game for anyone building with Python.
So, let's start with a really simple question. How does an AI model actually do, well, anything? I mean, picture this. You've got a robot standing in your kitchen. You tell it, hey, go make me a cup of tea. How does that command, that digital thought inside its AI brain, turn into a real physical action?
Well, it really boils down to three simple steps. First, the AI brain decides what it needs to do, make tea. Second, it has to communicate that decision. It does this by sending out a digital message, which we call an API call. And finally, the robotic arm acts on that message. It receives the call and executes the command. That API call is the absolute critical link here. It's like a universal translator between the model's idea and the real world.
Okay, so that robot analogy is a great way to wrap our heads around the basics. But in the real world, things are, well, a little more complex. This whole process happens inside a vast, hidden network of technology. So let's peel back those layers and see what's really going on behind the curtain.
What you're really looking at is this whole stack of different technologies all working together. The AI model itself is running on some massive cloud infrastructure, right? When it makes a decision, it sends out that API call. And that single call can trigger multiple microservices. You can think of them as tiny specialized apps that all talk to each other to get the job done. It's this incredibly complex dance happening in the background, all in the blink of an eye.
And this all points to a really fundamental truth about modern software. There was this prediction years ago that everything would eventually become an API. And wow, in the world of AI, that has absolutely come true. APIs are the glue. They're the universal language that connects every single piece of this complex puzzle.
But here's the catch. When you rely so heavily on this massive infrastructure from one company, a huge problem creeps in. Vendor lock-in. Basically, once you build your entire system on a platform like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, it becomes incredibly difficult, almost impossible, to ever leave. You're trapped. And while that's a massive headache for the business, it creates a whole different kind of chaos for the people actually building the software.
So, let's zoom in. Let's go from that high-level 30,000-foot view right down to the person on the ground, the developer who's actually writing the code. For them, trying to build things in this complex world, well, it brings a whole different set of challenges. It's a daily battle to try and tame the chaos. Honestly, setting up a new project used to be a complete nightmare. You've probably heard of dependency hell, right? It is a real thing. It's like trying to build something where every single tool you need requires a different type of battery, and none of them are compatible with each other. You'd be juggling different Python versions and a whole bunch of separate tools just to get started. It was tedious, frustrating, and things would break all the time.
But what if it didn't have to be like that? What if there was one tool that could just solve all of those problems? Well, there is, and it's time to introduce the hero of our story today, a little something called poetry. So what is poetry? In a nutshell, it's an all-in-one toolkit for Python developers. It handles literally everything, managing all the different libraries your project depends on, creating isolated little sandboxes for them to run in, and even packaging and publishing your final project for the whole world to use. It basically takes what used to be 3 or 4 different clunky tools and replaces them with one single elegant solution. So let's talk about its superpowers, because it has a few. It automatically creates and manages your project's environment. No more fuss. It puts everything your project needs into one single, easy-to-read file. It can build out a perfect project structure for you from scratch. And maybe best of all, it takes the super complicated process of sharing your code and boils it down to just 2 simple commands. All right, talk is cheap, right? Let's actually see this thing in action. I'm going to show you how you can manage the entire lifecycle of a project with just 5 core poetry commands. Okay, command number 1, creating a new project. You just pop open your terminal and type poetry new and then whatever you want to call your project, and boom, that's it. Poetry instantly creates this perfectly organized directory for you. All the standard files, all the right folders, they're just there, ready for you to start coding. No more manual setup. All right, next up, your project needs a new library.
Let's say the requests library, which is super common for making web requests. You just type poetry, add requests. And here's where the magic really starts to happen. Poetry goes out, it finds the right version, installs it into its own little isolated environment, and this is the crucial part. It automatically updates your project's master blueprint file.
And this is what's happening under the hood. It's updating this one central configuration file with the exact version of the library you just added. This right here is the key to ending dependency hell forever. It means anyone else on your team or anyone in the world can grab your project and perfectly, 100%, replicate your exact setup. No more, well, it works on my machine.
Okay, so you've written some code, now you need to run it. Instead of just typing Python, you add one little phrase at the beginning, poetry run. And that is so important. It tells Poetry, hey, make sure you run this script inside the special environment you made just for this project. This guarantees it has access to the exact versions of the libraries it needs to work correctly. It's foolproof. So you've built your project, you've tested it, and it works. Now for the really powerful part. Now it's time to share your creation with the entire global developer community.
I cannot stress this enough. This part used to be a huge, complicated mess. You'd have to write these complex scripts. It was a whole thing. Now, it's just 2 commands. First, Poetry Build packages everything up into a neat little distributable file. Then, Poetry Publish uploads it to the Python package index, or PyPy, which is kind of like the central app store for all Python code, making it available to developers everywhere, instantly.
You know, we started this whole conversation looking at the massive, complex world of AI, and we end here with a simple tool that makes building a piece of it incredibly easy. It puts the power back in the hands of the individual developer, which leaves just one question. With tools this easy, what will you build and share with the world?